And welcome once more to Flashpoints. I'm Bob Orr. Joining me as he always does is Juan Zarate. He's our national security analyst. Juan, good to see you again.
Bob, great seeing you.
Let's do an update on ISIS here. What's going on in terms of the air campaign against ISIS, and what effect is that having?
Well, ISIS continues to push, especially Kobani in the north and the Turkish border. They maintain control in Mosul and Fallujah. But what you see American airstrikes trying to do is support the Kurdish forces in Kobani, not just with strikes against ISIS, but now with drops of weaponry coming from the Kurdish-Iraqi north to resupply the fighters there. You see a breakthrough as well with Turkey with the allowance of Iraqi Kurds to cross that border, which the Turks weren't allowing, now to join the fight as well. And so you also have, not just there, but in Iraq, the addition of American air power to support Iraqi forces, especially in Anbar, which has become such a key battle space where ISIS continues to expand its presence. And so the U.S. is trying to apply air pressure and resupply where it can to support the ground forces that are serving, in essence, as the proxies to fight against ISIS.
So is this a new phase, in your opinion? Is this now more than an air campaign? Is there some coordination that's starting to surface with the ground forces? Well,
I think you're starting to see the battle lines sort of drawn and the battle being met, in part by U.S. air power, but you've got obviously the Kurdish forces regrouping, able to push back in Kobani a bit, which is good. We're losing ground in Al-Anbar, but that requires not just the Iraqi forces, but also some of the Sunni Arab tribes to get on board. And so there's work along those grounds to try to get them on board. That's going to be difficult. You also have the injection now of Australian special forces, 200 of them now coming in from the UAE. They've been pre-deployed. They've now been given the okay to go in. They will now be on the ground helping, likely spotters and helping with training. And so you're seeing slowly but surely the battle being joined. The problem here, Bob, is we may not have enough time. ISIS continues to pressure, including in Mount Shinjar against the Yazidis. They continue their assault on Baghdad, not a full-scale invasion, but the use of suicide attacks. And they are entrenching in places like Fallujah and Mosul, where they are girding for a battle long-term. And so this is not going to be over tomorrow, and certainly the airstrikes are not going to be enough to dislodge them.
It seems like there are pockets of progress. There are places where clearly the air campaign is making a difference. But then we see an uptick in bombings in Baghdad. So is it a case of just this terror group adjusting to the tactics and just moving around?
Absolutely, and this is the danger of the Islamic State. They've looked like a conventional army. They've had tanks and Humvees. They've attacked towns with hard weaponry. But they're a terrorist group. We've got to keep that in mind, and can look an awful lot like an insurgency or a guerrilla force. And so even if they're pressured away, even if we destroy their tanks, they're going to be able to adapt in some fairly creative ways. And we've seen that in Baghdad. What a lot of experts were expecting was a push toward the airport and then a direct assault on Baghdad. And we've said here on Flashpoints that's likely not going to be their tactic, in part because they're not going to be able to take it full scale. So what do they do instead? They're going to use pinprick suicide attacks, maybe some assaults near the airport, and that's what we've seen in the recent days.
Obviously, a story we'll come back to many times. Juan, thank you.
Got to keep watching.
And thanks to you for watching Flashpoints. I'm Bob Orr. We'll see you next time.